Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Crown and today we are going to have some more stories that I hope that you will enjoy. But before we start, it will be so much appreciated if you would subscribe to the channel, like the video if you enjoyed it, and maybe leave a comment down below. These simple clicks would mean a lot to the future of this channel and really reward the effort that I put in every day. And now, without further ado, let's go. Before COVID, partner only had the kids 5 out of 14 nights due to his work. He even had to get special permission from his boss to come in late one day every other week to get the 5 nights. When businesses and schools went remote because of COVID, Linda reached out. She couldn't manage her work and make sure the kids were on track with remote school. She demanded that partner take them 2 additional nights. He agreed as it ultimately gave him 50-50 custody without having to fight Linda or to go to court. However, the nights she requested were not in our favor. Without going into details, we had the kids 5 consecutive nights one week and 2 separate nights the other week. No one knew how long remote COVID was going to last, so we agreed. We didn't see at the time what it truly meant. The days were arranged in a way where we never had more than 3 days without the kids, while Linda had 5 nights every other week. We could never go out of town for more than 3 nights without Linda giving her consent, and she never would, telling us it's our problem, not hers. The kids hated the arrangement as well. They didn't like coming to partner's house for one single night, as it was really disruptive to the routine. Partner did not feel he got quality time with them either. He eventually reached out to Linda to discuss the situation after almost half a year of this arrangement. Linda, however, was still bitter about us moving in together and refused to change anything that was an advantage for partner. Partner says, "We need to discuss the custody arrangement. I don't feel like a quality time with the kids and they have said multiple times they don't like coming here for one night. I would like to move that 2 separate days I have them together. We would only need to switch one of the days. I'm flexible on whichever day works best for your schedule." Linda tells him, "The schedule is staying how it is. I'm not changing it." "Why not?" "I don't have to give you a reason. The schedule stays the same." The kids hate the schedule as well. We need to move it for their benefit. You can ask for a change and I can say no. And I'm saying no. The schedule stays the same. We designed our agreement to give flexibility for the schedule, and so we don't have to go to court and pay the fees. However, we need to have something that works for both of us and the kids. I'm still saying no. If you don't like it, you can take me to court. Partner never responded to that. Linda was just getting more and more aggravated, and he let her cool for a couple of days and gave her a call. "What is your real concern about switching the schedule?" "Our son has physical therapy on the day you want to take them. I wouldn't be able to see what he does and be involved. I wouldn't be able to tell the progress he's making." "Well, I would never stop you from attending his sessions. You can attend as many as you want, just let me know." After this, Linda agreed to the switch. We knew her heartfelt reason was nonsense. She just didn't want us to have what would be an advantage as she saw it. How did we know it was a BS reason? Well, their son's therapy occurs weekly, and Linda has attended exactly 2 sessions in almost 2 years. Hey guys, it's Crown. Hope you're doing well. I started a brand new channel called That One Story. It'll mostly include stories coming from different subreddits, but will definitely include some entitled people getting their comeuppance. I'll leave the link in the description below, so please subscribe to the channel to listen to the latest stories, cause I'll make sure to post videos on a daily basis. Thank you and have a great day. A little over a year ago, I moved to a smallish town. I found a decent duplex out on the outskirts, plenty of room for just myself. When I spoke to the landlord or landlady, I guess, she had implied that she'd had quite a few other people look at the place, but that these weren't the sort of people she wanted moving in. It was heavily implied, though never explicitly stated, that she wouldn't allow minorities to move into her duplexes. I really didn't care, as it was none of my business, and as long as I could get the place I was happy. So I moved in a week later, and at first all was well. I work Tuesday through Saturday 8 to 5 every week, though I frequently get off later than 5. My job consists of driving a company truck and going to customers' houses to fix their stuff. I sometimes deal with as many as 10 different people a day, and at the end of the day the only thing I usually want to do is go home and veg out in front of my computer. The last thing I want to do is interact with other people or have to deal with a bunch of noise. Unfortunately, my neighbor was running her own daycare next door, watching as many as 10 or 12 kids in her little 1,000 square foot unit. She would allow these kids to run wild. My typical Monday, which was one of my weekend days, would consist of waking up at about 7 a.m. to the sound of kids banging on walls and jumping on furniture and hearing my neighbor scream at the top of her lungs. This would go on all day until about 7 p.m. with no respite. Now, I knew when I moved in that she ran her own small daycare, but I didn't think it would be a problem. After all, I used to watch kids as well, only I was good at it, and I made sure the kids I watched were well behaved. Naturally, I assumed that someone running their own daycare would have the skill to control the kids. Not so. After a few weeks of this, I ended up losing my patience. I knocked on my neighbor's door and engaged her in a small talk. I didn't want to immediately tell her to shut the hell up, so I just made it seem like a friendly chat. During the small talk, I realized that this witch was nuts. This was the first time we'd ever talked, and within just a few minutes, she was telling me that she has an STD. I quickly forgot her name, but I always referred to her by the nickname I gave her, Dumb Brat. Well, after a few minutes of conversation with Dumb Brat, I decided to approach the subject of excessive noise. I started out by asking her if I was noisy and assuring her that if I ever become noisy, she could ask and I would quiet down. She assured me that she never heard a beep from me. She then asked me if she was noisy, to which I replied that there was an awful lot of noise during the day while she was watching kids. Now I'm still trying to keep things civil and friendly, but things start going off the rails. She apologizes and tells me that running a daycare is noisy business. She explained that this is her only source of income and she has no choice in the matter. I ask her if she's able to keep the kids from banging on the walls at the very least, to which she replies that she's one person with 10 kids, and she can't be everywhere at once. At this point, I realize that being Mr. Nice Guy isn't working. This witch is just going to keep making excuses and avoiding the issue rather than actually try to do something about it. I suggest that she either hire some help or take some lessons to learn to better deal with young children. She suggests I move somewhere else, and that it was stupid to move in when I knew the next door unit was a daycare. Well, at this point I'm just pissed. This witch does a sloppy job of running a daycare and handling children and has the nerve to call me stupid? I decided to go to war. Before going back into my own unit, I make one more statement. Do you have a license to run a daycare? Well, it turns out that Dumb Brat is good friends with the landlady, and at the beginning of the next month when the landlady comes to collect rent, she serves me an eviction notice, giving me 30 days to leave. Her explanation is that I'm causing tensions among the other tenants and being a troublemaker. Keep in mind, the only other tenant I've spoken to has been the Dumb Brat. Well, neither of these witches know who they are messing with. I'm the last person to just roll over and take it, especially when I feel that something unjust has been done. I do my research and learn about my state's childcare laws. I learned that there is a limit to how many children an unlicensed facility can care for, which is also based on how many caregivers there are. I also learned that there are certain requirements, such as state workers inspecting the facilities and doing background checks on the caregivers. All of that licensing information is public domain. So I do a search, and sure enough, my neighbor is unlicensed and illegally watching children. After that, I did some research on house equality laws in my state. Turns out, it's illegal for anyone, even a private owner, to discriminate against potential tenants on things like race, sex, religion, and so on. First thing first, I call up the Department of Child Protective Services and report my neighbor. I explain that she's unlicensed, that she's clearly unable to handle the children she's watching, and that I frequently hear banging and yelling coming from her unit, which has me concerned for the safety and well-being of the children. A bit of a fib there, but I figured I should spice it up a bit. Well, much to my surprise, it only takes about an hour before 2 CPS agents and a couple of police are pulling up in front of the duplex. They force the dumb brat to call each of the parents to come pick up their children, then explain to the parents that if something were to happen to their children, that they could be held liable for leaving their children with someone who isn't equipped to handle them. Tom Brat ends up getting slapped with a hefty fine and an order to appear in court. For the first time since I moved into that duplex, I was happy for the thin walls. I just sat there drinking a few beers and listening to all the chaos. It went on for hours. I slept like a baby that night. So phase 1 of Operation Duplex Destruction was complete. Tom Brat was ruined and I destroyed her only source of income permanently, caused her financial distress in the form of a fine, and got her in trouble with the law. Now it was time to proceed to phase 2. By now most of my stuff was packed and I'd found a new place to live a few miles down the street. A couple of weeks after moving to my new place, I invited a few of my co-workers over to have a few beers, though I had an ulterior motive. It just so happens that I invited 2 black co-workers and a white co-worker. After we'd have a couple beers, I explained the real reason I wanted to get together. I've been working on a plan to get back at some racist witch of a landlady, and I was ready to put the plan into action. Fortunately, me being such a likable guy and on great terms with all of my co-workers, they were more than happy to go along. I went ahead and had one of my black co-workers call up the landlady and ask her about her rent listing and set up a time to meet her and check the place out. I instructed my white co-worker to wait until the end of the week to do the same. A week and a half came and went. During that time, all 3 of my co-workers had met with the landlady to check out the unit. She told my 2 black co-workers that she'd already found another tenant and sent each of them on their way. But when my white co-worker showed up later that day, she told him that she hadn't found anyone to rent yet, but that she'd had some unsavory characters show interest. Well, this was more than enough for me. I got in touch with my state's Commission on Human Relations Department. I explained that I had referred a few friends to check the place out, and that the owner of the properties was blatantly refusing to rent to minorities. I also called up the NNACP and explained the situation to them. It's now been about 2 months since all of that happened. I checked back with the NNACP this morning to ask for an update on the situation. The racist lady was slapped with a fine and is currently being sued by the NNACP for tens of thousands of dollars. And Operation Duplex Destruction is a success. Edit. As of right now, I'm living in a new place with quiet neighbors and a landlord that stays out of my business, so I couldn't be happier.
And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.